You're watching Beyond 100 Days with Nifemi Okuntoye. You can join the conversation on X using hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Remember to tag at TVC News On. So the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is set to create substantial employment opportunities by outsourcing 50,000 jobs to Nigeria. The ministry announced a landmark memorandum of understanding between the National Talent Export Program and Lab4. The minister, Uzoka-Anite, describes this memorandum of understanding as a major milestone aligned with President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. She says, quote, "This initiative cements our commitment to diversifying the economy and forging a Nigeria known globally as a nation of creators," end quote. Let's talk about industry, trade and investment under the Tinubu administration. President Tinubu, through the Minister of Information and National Orientation, recently said since assuming office in May last year, his administration has attracted $30 billion in foreign direct investment commitments into the real sectors of the economy, including manufacturing, telecoms, healthcare, oil and gas, and others. How much of these commitments have come to fruition? I'm joined by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Uzoka-Anite. She's live in our Abuja studio. Honorable Minister, thank you for joining us on the program this evening. You just announced the potential outsourcing of as many as 50,000 jobs to Nigeria with the signing of MOU between NATEP and Lab4. Break it down for Nigerians to understand. How does this service export works and who can benefit from it?
Hi, Nifemi. Thank you so much, and nice to be here in your studio. And good evening, Nigerians. To your question, how does the service export work? Well, you know, we are very familiar with exporting products and goods, where you package your produce, whether it is agricultural commodity or manufactured product, and you ship. But one phenomenon that it's not new, actually, is the term service export. Service export actually means the export of the creativity or the creation of humans. It's either in the job, the skills that they do, or in their products. For example, entertainment industry is a service sector, and exporting the produce or the products of our entertainment industry globally is going to be termed as a service export. IT is also a service export or a service sector, and any of these endeavors are called services. You know about telecoms is a service sector, financial services sector, like banking is a service sector. So that's basically what service export means. So what we are trying to do now in the ministry is to deliberately develop the service sector for export, not just developing the export of goods, but export of services. Because we found out that a contributor to our GDP, services contribute over 55% to our GDP. And it's been so significant that we must give major attention to it. And we found also that there's a lot of areas for collaboration between Nigeria and other countries who require our services, who require our manpower. And so this is one area, and a very exciting area, that the ministry is focusing on developing to support the economic diversification agenda of His Excellency, Mr. President.
So you have mentioned earlier that this mission is to showcase Nigeria as a powerhouse of high-quality talent for the global service export and outsourcing industry. So Nigerians are concerned because many people want to jackpot, right? Does this mean these are foreign jobs, these 50,000 jobs? Does this translate into 50,000 yes. Nigerians getting real jobs outside of the country?
So on the sidelines of hunger in September 2023, last year, the president launched the Nigerian Talent Export Program. And the reason for launching that talent export program is to deliberately focus on galvanizing our human resources to take advantage of the global skills shortages that we've seen. So now the MOU that we signed yesterday with Lab4 targets the 50,000 job creation in Nigeria by American companies. And that's actually the first MOU we're signing under NATEP. we have a lot of MOUs already in the works for other countries and other companies to participate in the skill development program. Nigeria is blessed with amazing human resources. It's probably not even probably, it is our most important asset. So now the human resource of Nigeria, they are vibrant, they are creative, they're entrepreneurial, and they're high-spirited. Now, if you look at the global outsourcing ecosystem, for example, Nigeria stands with a lot of advantages. One, the geographical advantage of Nigeria, the time zone location, for example, our dialects, when we speak English, our language, our communication, our positions us actually as a major talent export. And so we've identified this opportunity and we're developing deliberately for Nigeria to become a major global powerhouse for talent export. So that MOU that we signed yesterday will enable 50,000 Nigerians to have access to work for MSMEs in America. So we are here in Nigeria working for American companies and earning dollars, actually. So it's a major groundbreaking opportunity for the Nigerian youths in different sectors of the economy. But this particular one is targeting IT outsourcing in the area of telesales, telemarketing, cybersecurity, IT support services, customer service. So this is basically what that MOU is really dealing with.
Honourable Minister, the organized labor, over the years has complained about poor pay and poor condition of service for outsourced or contract workers. Has this been settled, covered in this MOU?
When you sign MOUs or you're working with globally recognized institutions like Lab 4, Lab 4 is a major company in America who's actually taking care of the outsourcing needs of millions of MSMEs in the US. You are definitely going to be working within the conditions of service that supports the ILO convention, for example. So we don't expect that there will be areas or issues of maltreatment of workers or poor conditions of labor. We don't expect to see any of those. The outsourcing or the business process outsourcing organizations, the BPOs, will also be subjected to certain criteria that they must go through to qualify to become a registered BPO in this scheme. And it's going to be run by Nigerians anyway, so it's Nigerians providing this opportunity or this environment for fellow Nigerians to work in. And these are centers that we will, accredit, we will register, accredit, and must meet all the necessary requirements for them to qualify to work in this scheme. So we don't expect to have any poor condition of service in those facilities.
We've seen President Tinubu make multiple trips in the past 9 months for bilateral and multilateral engagement. It's actually some 14 trips in 8 months. And he says it's to woo investors and tell them Nigeria is ready for business. But how much commerce and trade relations have we been able to garner from these trips? Are we keeping tabs on how much investment, real investment has come in the area of foreign direct investment?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Yes, the president, from inception of his administration, focused squarely on diversifying the economy and driving in investment to, cushion the effect of everything that we've seen, ranging from COVID-19 to the global commodity shocks, global financial crisis, and all of that. Nigeria has been very vulnerable because we've been a mono-product economy. So the president's focus on diversifying the economy means increasing the industrial base of the economy. And of course, with the expansion of an industrial base means we need to bring in more foreign direct investment. And that's been the focus of most of his trips, actually. And to your question, how much of that have you seen? The first trip we made was to India. Just about in January, the Indian delegation came back and reenacted their commitment to bring in the foreign investment. And we started seeing those investments come in. At India, we had a commitment of $14 billion. One of them was by Indorama. Indorama is making good its commitment to expand its fertilizer production facility in Port Harcourt. The second one was by Airtel Bharti. They're also doing that. and then the conglomerate of Indian industries that came back with a commitment to further, deepening their investment commitment that they made in India. So we've seen that 14 billion coming back or being materialized in terms of investment, real investment drive in the country. When they came, we saw some of the factory setups, some of the direct and indirect investments into existing greenfield and brownfields. So that investment is coming in. We went to Germany. We saw the materialization of the German Siemens deal. That's the Nigerian German Siemens deal. It's just materialized now. We've signed that MOU, and that investment is coming in. We saw the Riverside LNG deal, where the Riverside company in Nigeria will be exporting LNG to Germany. That's materialized.
Indeed.
We also went to, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is leading the delegation to Nigeria in April to materialize the commitment that they made in Saudi Arabia.
There are actually about 14 trips. So if we start going through them one after the other, we're not going to leave here. There are huge concerns about the quality of deals that we make, and we're going to be talking about that shortly. That will be after this break. Stay with us, everyone. Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite is the Honorable Minister of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. She joins me live from our Abuja studio. Thank you for staying the course on the program. There are concerns about the quality of deals that we make, call it bilateral or multilateral. Just today, the House of Reps resolved to urge your ministry to immediately halt the signing and implementation of the trade partnership with the UK. I think it's called the Enhanced Trade and Investment Partnership. And they are saying that should be stopped until the terms and conditions governing it are fully examined and ascertained. They say there are concerns about the legal aspect, which seem to tilt mainly in favor of the UK to the detriment of qualified Nigerian lawyers, that it seeks to allow UK lawyers to enter Nigerian legal space and practice, but not the other way around. What's your thought on this? Honorable Minister, are you still there?
Okay, thank you, Nifemi. Just hearing this, actually, that there was a halt by the, we haven't been officially communicated. And to your question, my take on it. Now, let me explain to you how bilateral agreements, yes, can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead with the contribution.
Can you hear me? Not sure you can hear me. Bilateral agreement or multilateral agreement that is signed, you will know that it's actually a detailed process, very rigorous and intensive. And it is not done by the ministry alone. There's what you call the Enlarged National Focal Point. The Enlarged National Focal Point, or called ENFP for short, is a multi- or interministerial committee made up of all different ministries that come in together. And every ministry comes in to look at the areas that concerns them. For example, when you're talking about health, the Ministry of Health, NAFDAC, will come in to look at the area of an MOU that concerns them. When you're talking about trade, Ministry of Trade comes in to look at that area. Then when you're talking about this particular issue of the ETIP in the UK, the area that concerns the legal services, the Ministry of Justice, with private sector lawyers, looked at that section of that particular MOU. And it's actually just one paragraph. And there is nothing in that MOU that specified that Nigeria was going to be disadvantaged with allowing UK lawyers coming to practice in Nigeria, and then Nigerian lawyers will not practice in the UK. There was even nothing specified in that regard. So I think a lot of people took that context took it out of context by thinking or insinuating that Nigeria was going to allow UK lawyers to come into practice. There was nothing in that MOU. Then secondly, remember, this is just an MOU. And the MOU is not enforceable, really. There is no section of the MOU that says that it is binding on any of the parties. So a memorandum of an understanding was a prelude or is a prelude to the actual negotiation of a trade agreement between us, trade and investment agreement between us and the UK. So this is actually the preamble. And most of those issues and the areas are still being fine-tuned and negotiated by the different ministries that are responsible for overseeing that particular segment of the MOU. So I think we're open to having more conversation with interested parties. The NBA wrote, we gave them our opinion. The Attorney General is party to this MOU, and it is very clear. It's just one short paragraph that was taken out of context. And remember, bilateral agreements are actually put in place to help. It's called bilateral, and it's a mutually beneficial agreement between the both countries. There is no way the Nigerian part will sit down and do or sit into an MOU or be party to an MOU that would disadvantage Nigeria. It's impossible. If anything, I think that MOU favored Nigeria more than it actually favored the UK, given the rigorous process that we went through to facilitate that MOU.
You talked about the NBA intervention. Before the House resolution, the NBA president issued a statement questioning the legality of the legal services aspect of the deal, and also, outrightly calling for a halt to its signing and implementation.
This is not a bill. Like I said, it's not a bill.
Yes. But my question really, okay, so what it is? What is it?
It's an MOU. It's a memorandum of understanding. And it's a non-binding memorandum of understanding, yeah.
I get you, MOU. But some have said, Honorable Minister, that there was insufficient consultation with key stakeholders and, affected interests with respect to the MOU. Is that something the ministry is willing to improve on, moving on?
No, like I said, the ministry is not the negotiator. The enlarged national focal point is the negotiator, and it is a body that is made up of both private sector and public sector participants, and there is full representation on the board. We don't have to call the NBA president to sit in the NF. He's not a member of the ENFP, so he may not know whether the NBA is represented or not. But is the NBA represented? Is the private sector represented? Is the interest of Nigerians represented? The answer is yes. So I think before those statements were issued, it would have been important to engage with us to understand exactly what the process is, look at that provision within the MOU before statement. I saw the statement by the NBA president, and I think he spoke not within the context of the MOU. Maybe it was outside the context. Maybe it was referring to something else, not that particular MOU, because I couldn't relate both of them. And so that's my take on it. There is nothing that will sabotage the country, and we will never be part of it.
So it's one thing to woo investors, right? But there's also the need to improve the ease of doing business here. Late last year, we reported the exit of some multinationals. What are we doing to improve the overall business climate in Nigeria to perfectly fit our appetite for multilateral, benefits for the ongoing relations that we're working on?
One of the ways to actually improve business or investment in any country is through the signing of bilateral agreements. For example, the ETIP we just talked about, the UK ETIP. This will actually encourage UK companies to come into Nigeria to register and feel protected, that their investments are protected. Now, talking about exit of multinational, we engaged all these multinationals that were exiting. A lot of them told us that they exited because of their global strategy, business strategy. So a lot of them, for example, Procter & Gamble had a change in their business operations and strategy, and was the reason for exiting not just Nigeria, but at least 16 other countries that they were exiting from, and concentrating their focus on their core business mandate, whatever that was. We also engaged a lot of investors in Nigeria, manufacturers. I did a factory tour. I deliberately visited a lot of factories, and a lot of them have been here for over 100 years, like, for example, Unilever. We also went to Coca-Cola. We went to a lot of factories, and all of them renewed their commitments to working and staying in Nigeria. So, and a lot of them are part of these people we're seeing who are actually even bringing in more investments into Nigeria. There are more people who are coming in that are exiting. And that's why I'm championing and making sure that we keep on announcing the business expansions that we're seeing, investment in expansion. We're seeing investment in greenfield. We're seeing investment in brownfield. And we're also seeing more divestments and more investment. For example, Shell came in, and Shell is divesting. This is also part of their corporate strategy, to divest from onshore assets to offshore assets, and then increase their investment in gas assets. Now, when it is being reported by the media, it is not correctly reported or underreported, and then you give emphasis to the bad news that they are leaving. They're actually not leaving. They're even increasing their investment, and they're saying, you know what, onshore doesn't pay me or is not as profitable for me as offshore and as gas, because gas is the new rave in the oil and gas sector. Now, that is the sort of things that we expect media to be propagating. Propagate more of the good news, report correctly, and let us actually have facts of what's going on. When Procter & Gamble exited Nigeria, we wanted to see also the media reporting that they exited other countries due to their global strategy, but that wasn't what we were seeing. So I think that a lot has to also be done by the media to support us in what we're doing. We want to see more correct reporting. And then, like we said, we will continue to give information, the correct information out to the media, and as much as we can, continue to show what the government is doing to promote businesses and investment in the country. We've done a lot, and much more is coming.
Agree.
This is the first time within 10 months we've seen investment commitment of more than 30 billion. It's not been done in any of the administration. And so there's a lot we're doing, and there's so much more that we want to do and that we're going to do. This is the first time that we're signing an MOU to have a business process outsourced to Nigeria from the United States of America and other countries. It's the first time. It's the first time we're providing jobs to Nigerians where they be paid in dollars, in foreign currency, and be working in a foreign country while living in their own hometowns. It's the first time. So there are so many successes that we've seen that we can record for this administration. And this is what I want us to continue to report. The economy is hard. It's hard globally. It's not just in Nigeria. But let us focus on the positives, on the achievements of this administration, and then we can all work together, collaborate on making sure that the positive impact is felt across the country.
Honorable Minister, we have run out of time. I agree with you that the media has a huge role to play in all of this. But on a light note, you know what they say about bad news? They say bad news sell. Perhaps you would visit our studio more often to report the good news yourself and tell us what government is doing.
But let me say one more thing before you go. Bad news sells, but it should not be at your own detriment. Don't sell your birthrights. Don't sell your right as a Nigerian because you want to make what? You want to make news. Positive news also sells. You feel the positive news selling when you see more investment flowing in here. An investor, for example, is going to come into Nigeria. The first thing he checks is the internet. What is the news about Nigeria? If the first thing he's seeing is your negative news, why would that investment come in? Then you come back and blame the government that we're not doing enough. But you see, it's a collective responsibility. We all must work together for a common good of this country. And everybody needs to play a role and play their own part in this.
It is why TVC News stands tall with the Beyond 100 Days program to highlight what this government has done after its first 100 days in office. It's also why we have invited you for this exclusive interview. So we're hoping that you would, honor the invitation more often subsequently so we can keep track, and keep reporting.
Well, I will always come.
Of the story. Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's our show today. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.